process today. It's a bit of photos taken through the day. I think everybody's represented. And so first, thank you to Bryce and the library.
My pleasure.
Letting us help you. And the rest of you for hosting us here. It was a great time too, so thank you as well. The, wow, really, this is just a quick shot of that. Fellow was in earlier today, didn't come back, but that's okay. It was a great insight on the back of his shirt that Ben captured, so we thought that was an interesting little notion to keep. So obviously we started out with some requirements gathering and discussion around how the process was going to be for the day. We talked about users, what their expectations were. We talked about the improvements that were needed. Bryce gave us a really good overview on what the current issues were, and that really helped us define what we actually needed to accomplish. So ultimately we narrowed down our objective. We wanted to remove barriers to the volunteer process, making the experience easier, faster, and less intimidating. It was a very, very onerous set of PDFs, and we think we've ultimately boiled that down to what we think is a much simpler process. Oh, there's the shirt again. So then Isaac took us through prioritizing the requirements across the feasibility and the importance scale. And that's where we net out. So ultimately, the approach we took, we wanted to streamline the application process, improve user experience, and then we defined a platform that would allow for some extensible growth. In the feature request, or the items list that we had accumulated, there were some pretty aggressive and some pretty ambitious requirements there, but ultimately this basic framework that's been developed can allow for many of those things to be implemented later. It would be an extremely robust system, obviously, with all of these things implemented. One of the items we talked about earlier was looking at third-party tools, volunteer management platforms. Many of those would have a lot of these capabilities built in. Obviously, there's cost associated with those, and sometimes the government funds or the government coffers don't necessarily support those. However, many times the volunteer management platforms are actually priced accordingly because they know that organizations that leverage volunteers don't necessarily have the dollars to support those big budget platforms. In any case, continuing on, so ultimately we streamlined the application process, simplified the initial application form, provided a more engaging and meaningful experience. A lot of discussion today centered around having the volunteers feel like they're part of the process, feel a little more engaged, rather than just throwing a really ugly form at them. We wanted them to feel something as they're going through that process. And ultimately a more inviting and approachable messaging and tone was developed through some of Ben's copywriting and the overall streamlining of the forms. So there's the dev team hard at work. And here is some of the lovely copy that was produced. So it's just a screenshot from Ben's machine. I'm not sure if this actually got implemented in the final version, but there is a copy deck that can be integrated when that's ready. So the improved user experience, we've improved it by making it web-based. Ultimately, there's a huge improvement alone. Centralized applicant information, so for the volunteer managers, just having a very simple dashboard of all the applications would be a tremendous boon to them rather than the mile-high paper. And any kind of enhancements for a dashboard for the volunteer managers, again, obviously would provide greater visibility. There'd be some searchability and so on. If they need a particular volunteer with some certain capabilities, they can have some rudimentary ability to search for it, at least in the preliminary version. Okay, and this was an early mock-up of the input form. And ultimately, the deliverable is an extensible platform for growth. So applicants can have more visibility on the process. These are things that we would look forward to having in the future. So as the applicants go through the process, we've identified certain areas where they'll get messaging, whether it's email or text-based messaging. Obviously, those are capabilities that need to come in the future. Volunteer managers would have much more control over the process, much more visibility. And it's a preliminary roadmap, some of the requirements that we've documented in the requirements document, or a functional requirements document that we've compiled, provides a very basic roadmap, at least for you to remember some of what we talked about today and look forward to the future. And that's where we're at. So, any luck?
Yep. What's up?
Oh, great.
Yeah, that was a great summary.
Did you move though?
I'm glad you put the photos in there.
Yeah, the photos are great.
There you go.
I feel like we should set up like a separate Google, or maybe just the existing Google Drive, so we can put like all the photos and everything.
There's a lot of photos on that drive that I gave you. The ones I think that were on the deck were in that, on that drive.
I think I've got most of this team's emails. I'm happy to share them around. And Bryce, you're going to reach out to me.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Share it.
Sounds good.
Alright, cool. So some of the text here, I know there was some copywritten, and so I just put some blurb tips in here for right now. And then Bryce, you'll definitely get the whatever text was written here, and I'm sure you'll have to massage it, get in there. We got some elements for free. There was a bit of a lift just getting it into the development environment in the cloud, and then issues with the internet. So that was a lot of fun. But we basically, have a process here, and some of the skin here is we tried to incorporate some of the elements of the library's current site, but there's pieces in here that are just because it's in a dev environment, it's ugly. Like that's ridiculous, but okay, so cool. Let me blow this out a little bit. Yeah, so basically they can enter in their information here. Bryce has the ability to really easily change some of this form too. It's a built-in Drupal module. You can go and add fields if it needs to, change the way things are written, or change these radios to checkboxes if needed. So a person can enter in information about themselves.
I like that post-high school areas of study.
Yeah, that's a nice touch.
And then this is a really cool thing, I think. Ben stole it from me. No, I'm just kidding. The Aussie idea here is pretty awesome. But anyway, it's just kind of a way to incorporate the whole idea of a library into the application process. I think that's a big part of the value of this. Hackathon was even just the process and an applicant going through it, trying to soften the whole feel. So that's really cool. These are all linked on the back end to genres, so they know when they pick a certain one, it links it to drama or whatever.
I think that feature will go over well. I like it. I mean, of course, there's some more that we'll add to it, but I think that does a good job of using the library itself to improve the tone there.
Yeah, maybe bring in some younger volunteers who love to gamify their life and their questionnaires with BuzzFeeds.
Yeah, so then other information about previous volunteerism here, and he can add in the list of opportunities. He could turn those into checkboxes, and then submit. There's some language. I think you already put together some language for this page. We didn't get it in here, but you can easily add it on the back end. And the nice thing with this module is that there's a lot of free things like email notifications and exporting into a CSV file that you get. So
and the progress bars.
And the progress bar and stuff like that. So
oh yeah,
it should work well with their current site. That's that.
Thank you.
Does the client have any words of feedback?
Well, I've been saying it all day, and I say it again, thank you. This was a really good experience. I learned a lot. I learned some things I didn't expect to learn, which I was expecting in a weird way. But I'm glad to have a chance to meet all of you and have a chance to work with you, and somehow I hope that our relationships continue. and it may be direct or it may be tangential, but I really would like to, if you're interested, give you updates on how this is going, and any of you are welcome to reach out to me or the library at any time. And it was unknown what we could do today because we didn't know who would show up or what abilities they would have or inclinations or the weather or anything. And I'm just really pleased with what we did accomplish. And part of that is a trajectory that will allow me and the library to continue what we started today. And that's really what I wanted to get out of this the most. It's something that is not an end in itself necessarily, but opens possibilities and creates a foundation that we can trust, and then bring in more collaborators, and domain experts to really make it as good as it can be. And I just think this is a good example of collaboration, so thank you.
Well,